This video is to describe and demonstrate the Technics RS-B905 stereo cassette deck that I'm listing on eBay. This is a 3-head deck. It's got a closed loop dual capstan and it features Dolby B, Dolby C and DBX noise reduction. It was made by Technics in the late 80s in Japan, probably around about 87. Since then it's had some use. You can see that the legends have worn off some of the transport controls here, but that's not uncommon for Technics decks of this era. The capstan and heads don't show much wear. I will try and photograph them as best I can for the eBay listing so you can see that. And sonically it's absolutely excellent, sounds great. I've calibrated the playback levels, record levels, the bias and what else? Oh yeah, the DBX output level as well. There's a separate adjustment for DBX. So I'll give you a quick demo of all the features of the deck now. So first of all, let me show you the tape type selector is working correctly. I can't show you with a metal tape because I don't have one at the moment, but here's a normal tape. It's also a pre-recorded tape that's had the erase protection lugs removed, so I shouldn't be able to record on it. Let's put it in. Yep, it's coming up as type 1 normal, which is correct. If I try and record, you'll see the play light will come on, it'll go into playback mode, but the record LED, which is red just above the record button, will not light. Okay, so hold down record, press play. Yep, gone into playback mode. Okay, this is a type 2 chrome tape, and there we go, the deck's correctly detected it. So what I'll do is a quick demo of recording. This is a 3-head deck, as I mentioned. That means that the erase, record and playback heads are all separate, unlike many cassette decks where the record and play head is combined. And because of that, you can monitor what you've just recorded a fraction of a second earlier, i.e. the record head records onto the tape, then as the tape moves past onto the playback head, you can listen to the recording just as it's been made. And we'll give a full demonstration of that now. So, as with all 3-head decks, it has a monitor switch with 2 positions, tape and source. It's currently set to tape, green light. So if I flick it to source, we'll hear the line in, which is the CD player playing. There it is. So I'm going to start recording now. Go straight to tape. It's recording on leader at the moment, so nothing, you can't hear anything. And there we go. Typical, it's the end of a track. Let's just wait for the next track. So we're recording with no noise reduction at all at the moment. Here's Dolby B. Dolby C. And DBX. Just wind the input level down and hopefully you'll be able to hear the tape hiss difference as I move between the noise reduction types. So DBX is removing most of the hiss. It's, I would argue, the best noise reduction on the deck. However, the advantage or disadvantage with DBX is that if you want to record on one deck and play on another, if your playback deck does not have DBX circuitry, then it will sound terrible. Whereas if you record with Dolby and then play it back on a deck without Dolby, it's not so bad, just a bit of extra treble. So if you're going to record stuff just for use on this deck or to use on other decks with DBX, then great, use it. If not, probably best using Dolby C or none at all. I wouldn't bother with Dolby B, it's pretty much pointless. So there's DBX, here's C. A little bit more hiss. Certainly I can hear it through my headphones. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it on the recording. B. Quite a lot of hiss. And finally off. That's obviously the most hiss, as you'd expect. Okay, I'm going to go back to DBX. Wind the levels up again. I'm deliberately overdriving a little bit, overloading the tape a bit. As you can hear, it still sounds great. Source. There's the recording. There's the source. And the recording. Just wind the levels down a little bit back towards normal now. In fact, I'm going to go a bit lower still so it's easier for you to hear me talking. We'll just go through some of the controls here. So in order to get exactly the right amount of treble off an individual tape, on the better decks like this one, you tend to have an adjustable bias. So that's adjusting how much high frequency is added to the signal that's being recorded. If I reduce the bias, you'll hear more treble. If I increase it, you'll hear less. I've calibrated it, in fact, with this tape, so pretty much in the middle. In fact, just slightly in the plus is correct, where you should be able to hear no difference really between the treble levels between the source on the tape. So I'm just going to turn the levels back up again. I'll show you it as is now, then I'll remove some bias and I'll add some bias and you'll hear the difference. There's the original. There's the tape. This is about the correct bias for this particular cassette. Source. Tape. Okay, so I'm going to over bias. And the treble's dropping off a bit. I'll flick it back to the source. And the tape. And let's go the other way. There's the source and the tape. It's only a bit tinny. That's about right. So you've also got record calibration controls here. Different tapes, if you apply the same amount of magnetic flux to them, will record at a different level. And this just allows you to calibrate so that when you flick between tape and source, you've got the same levels. I've calibrated the record outputs levels, so they're pretty much the same anyway, certainly with this tape, even when the record calibration is set to 0. Okay, what else to tell you about this deck? So it's got Dolby HX Pro headroom extension. It's got a Class AA amplifier. It has an MPX filter, multiplex filter here, which sometimes you need when recording FM radio. It's got a couple of extra bells and whistles. It has a timer switch with 3 positions, record, off and play. And what this is for is unattended recordings or playback. What you do is you get a external AC timer switch, the kind of thing you might use to turn your standard lamp off and on when you go away on holiday. If it's in the record position, when power is applied to the deck, then it'll immediately start recording. In the playback position, obviously it will immediately start playing, and most of the time you'll probably want that off in the middle position. It's also got a repeat button. So this deck, in common with most high quality 3-head decks, it only plays one direction. If you want to play or record on side B of the tape, you need to take the tape out and turn it over. However, it does have a feature so that when it gets to the end of a side, it will rewind back to the beginning and start playing again with the repeat button on. It also does stuff like if I rewind it now, when it gets to the beginning of the tape, it'll immediately go into playback mode. I think that's about it. Thanks very much.